you, Angela, my sis, my friend. Of course, you know when you call, I'm going to be here. Send out the bat signal. Hopefully, the PowerPoint is up. So I have to follow Malik Yoba. I'll do my best. But I'm excited to share with you all of the investments that are flowing from the Department of Transportation, in particular, the bipartisan infrastructure law. I'm going to run through these slides pretty quickly, hit some high notes. It's a lot of slides and a lot of words. I'm happy to share the slides with everyone if you want to take those back with you. But I think the most important thing I want to stress is that this administration, my boss, Secretary Buttigieg, we are all committed to making sure that minority-owned businesses participate and get opportunities from this historic, once-in-a-generation investment of dollars in our infrastructure program. And so what I'm going to talk about today is the billions, so you can track it, where it's going to be, and then also what the department is doing to help get businesses ready so that they can compete for these opportunities. Next slide, please. So first, this is just a little bit about the organization of DOT, if you don't know. I mentioned our secretary. His top priorities are safety, innovation, and infrastructure, but I have to add in the other top priority, which is wealth creation, and that's squarely focused on reducing the racial wealth gap. And I'll talk more about that here in a minute. We have 10 operating administrations in our organization. And OSDBU, so I'm the deputy director for OSDBU, which is the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. We affectionately call it OSDBU. Leo San Roman, who's here with me, my colleague, he leads our procurement assistance division, and he's going to be in the matchmaking session, so I encourage you to find some time to sit and talk with him. But we are really excited to be part of the Secretary's executive team in leading these wealth creation initiatives across the department, particularly as we focused on our equity goals. Next slide, please. So I'll try not to spend all my time going through all of these acronyms. They're long, but the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, we call it IJA, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, will be celebrating the 2-year anniversary on November 15th. But essentially, this is the bipartisan legislation that is creating the billions of dollars that Angela mentioned. Public transit, rail, so this is the largest federal investment in rail since the creation of Amtrak. Bridge investment, highway system, you heard some of the speakers before talk about broadband, as well as EV charging. Next slide. Next slide. So here's the numbers. $110 billion for roads, bridges, and major projects, $42 billion for airports, $66 billion for passenger and freight, $15 billion for electric vehicles and buses, and environmental remediation and power infrastructure, $86 billion. Next slide. Following the money is really important in DOT. So there's a couple ways that we engage with minority-owned businesses. First is through our direct contracts, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the direct grants that are coming out of the department, but we also have specific direct contract opportunities that come out of our OAs, and that's our federal highway, federal transit, federal aviation. They all have their own authority to directly procure opportunities. We also have our small business goals that the department set, and I'm excited to share with you that we set a goal of 20% and 21%, and we are exceeding that for this past fiscal year, and we're not done. We are going to continue to push forward in increasing that goal because, again, it's really important that we are intentional and making sure that small disadvantaged businesses get these opportunities. Grants, so DOT, 60% of our funding is through federally assisted grants. And so that funding goes directly to our state DOTs, our public transit agencies, airports, state and local acquisitions, and then of course I hope most of you in this room are familiar with the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. That is DOT's specific certification program. And our DBEs, we have DBE goals that are set by our DOTs and our transit agencies. And so that means that those are direct opportunities for DBEs to participate on our infrastructure projects. So if you're not certified, I encourage you to talk to Leo or myself about how you can get certified and find out about that program, but that is unique to DOT. You don't have to have it to participate on our direct procurement side, but on the federally assisted side, it is definitely a game changer to have that certification. Next slide, please. Again, this is just some of the numbers. What I want to call out here is really the $66 billion in freight and rail. And I'll share with you that while I think some of you may know, the DBE program does not apply to our rail contracts. We are very much focused on making sure that small businesses, and particularly minority-owned businesses, are participating in this rail investment. And you'll see some details coming out soon on the department's focus on making sure that small businesses know about the rail opportunities, that we're making those connections. So I encourage you to follow us. You can definitely get connected on the DOT website and also our OSDBU website. But this is part of our innovation and understanding that there's been a gap. There's been billions of dollars that have been awarded through our rail systems, but our small businesses have not been participating. And so we're trying to correct that and remedy that for the long haul. Next slide, please. This is one that's very popular. We've been out and about talking about electric vehicles and buses, $15 billion for this program. This is in collaboration with our partners in the room at DOE, but there's already some grants that are rolling out with this program. FHWA just announced about a month ago about opportunities to the first phase of this program is the repair of current electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And so those are opportunities for businesses to participate, and that is out now. You can find information on FHWA's website, but I can give you the details. We can talk after. And then also $5 billion for electric buses. Next slide, please. $42 billion airports, ports, and waterways. Next slide. $86 billion for our environmental remediation and power infrastructure. And again, I'm just going to kind of roll through these. Next slide. I want to talk about this Reconnecting Communities program because it is a first of its kind for DOT and for the administration. And this program is now in its second round of grant funding. But it was specifically set up and initiated to address the harms that have been created by some of the past infrastructure projects. And so this provides funding for communities to reconnect and rebuild. For example, we have the Claiborne Expressway in New Orleans, or I-81 in Syracuse. We've had past highways that have divided communities, right? And we know the harm that that causes. And so this funding is for organizations who want to reconnect those communities. How do we address those harms, and how do we make sure those don't continue to happen? And also, what's not on the slide here is we also have a program called Thriving Communities, which is part of the Reconnecting Communities. But what Thriving Communities does, it has a capacity builder component that is perfect for small minority-owned businesses to participate, because you can get in on helping build the capacity for non-traditional recipients to apply for these grants. So the point is, we're trying to make sure that we have new entrants who are going to apply for these Reconnecting Community grants, but they need technical assistance in how they apply for federal grants. We know it's not easy. We know sometimes it's much more difficult than it needs to be. So we're adding another funding pot through Thriving Communities to help new entrants really apply for these grants and be successful. Because we want to make sure that under-resourced communities are able to participate in this reconnecting community funding and grant opportunity. Next slide. This is just another long list of investments and grant opportunities. I'll highlight here Federal Aviation Terminal Program. So there's a lot of work that's going to be done at our terminals across the country, and that's $5 billion. Our mega projects is $15 billion. That's for the large bridges, roads, and highways. And I'll mention also the Federal Transit Low and No Emission Bus Program. That's $5.6 billion. So again, these are all opportunities for businesses like yourself to be involved and get to these opportunities. Some of them are at the state level. Some of them are through the transit agencies or the airports directly. And then some of them are through DOT. So the RAISE grants are through DOT directly. Next slide. So this is the most important slide, I think. So this is the beginning of what the department is doing to help businesses get ready and participate. So each agency was required by the administration to create an equity action plan. DOT's equity action plan has 4 pillars. One of the pillars is wealth creation, and that work is being led by the OSDBU office. And what we're focused on, as I mentioned at the top, is we are committed to reducing the racial wealth gap. But that starts with making sure that we can grow and build minority-owned businesses through this historic investment of billions of dollars that we have at our fingertips right now. But in order to do that, we know we have to get businesses ready. We have to share the opportunities. We have to make sure those connections are made. So one of the ways we've started to do that is over the last fiscal year, we have been on what we call a roadshow. So DOT has small business transportation resource centers. We're the only federal agency that has our own dedicated small business center. We have 11 of them across the country. And so what we did in collaboration with our friends, Angela, and MBDA and SBA, is we basically went on a roadshow to each of those 11 centers. And we were talking to businesses about all of these investments. How do you get access to capital, funding, loans, and how do you connect with the state DOTs to get directly to these contract opportunities? It was really successful. We just wrapped up our roadshow, but we're planning to do another round. The second round, we're going to focus on the exact contract, the exact project. So we're going to be really intentional about identifying those major projects across the country, bringing small businesses into the room with decision makers, having our federal partners there. Again, this is really about making sure that you are able to hear directly when something's hitting the street, what are the certifications that you need, just what do you need to do to get yourself ready to compete, and understanding who you need to talk to start building those relationships. So that's what we're going to really be focusing on in the next fiscal year. We also have launched, our secretary announced this week at a small business investors conference, we have an access to capital platform. And what that is we have a virtual platform for small businesses to sign up, build your profile. You can get access to webinars, resources. But the access to capital piece is really unique because it's the first of its kind, we think, in the industry. We're still trying to confirm that. But we have been building relationships with private equity investors. And they have given us a soft commitment to join this platform so that small businesses who are ready to grow and build their business, you can find private equity investors to start to have that conversation with, if that's something that you're ready for. If you're not ready for it, we have resources to help you get ready, if that's something that you're interested in the future. But this could be a real game changer in terms of an infusion of capital, and the ability to grow Black and brown businesses for the long haul. And again, that goes towards our commitment to wealth creation and really reducing that wealth gap. So I'm happy to share more information on that for those who are interested. But I wanted to cover the highlights there. I'm happy to take any questions. I do want to finally mention a key cornerstone of our work has been the MOU and our collaboration and partnership with MBDA. So we really appreciate MBDA and supporting us in all of this work. And thank you for your time this morning. Please find me if you have any questions. I'm happy to get you connected with whoever so that you can get your questions answered or that we can get you access to these opportunities. Thank you.